Greetings, greetings, beautiful beings. Welcome to today's movement medicine morsels. Today we're going to be playing with freeing and buttering up our lovely hips, looking for ease and effortlessness in our movement. So please, if you're tuning in for the first time or if you've visited these sessions any number of times, remember it's all about going smoothly, gently, with awareness. It's all about comfort, it's about self-exploration, and also it's more about the quality of the movement than about the finished product. So it might be a little bit of a different way of looking at things. All right, we're going to begin seated in a chair. So I invite you to come sitting, and we'll start by planting our feet, feeling them on the ground, so we feel our stability. And we also get a chance to feel our stability through our hips. So maybe wiggle a little bit, get a chance to say hello to your sit bones. They are the feet of our pelvis. They're actually round bones, so we're going to play with how it feels to rock on them in a little bit. So just wiggle a little bit. And we want to feel that foundation through the base of our pelvis, through the base of our feet. And our hips are basically where our pelvis and our thigh bones or leg bones meet. So we're going to be moving our thighs around our pelvis sometimes. We're going to be moving our pelvis around our thighs. And mostly we're going to be having fun and exploring. So think playful, think gentle, think following pleasure in your movement. And if something hurts, that's a signal that we need to change our direction. Maybe go smaller, go slower, maybe even just be still, relax, and visualize. So lots of options, so many choices. From our foundation, we grow tall. We imagine that the crown of our head rises up, bringing the whole spine with it. So we have a sense of ease, not a stiffness, but a sense of ease with our elongation. And because today's session is focusing on the hips, let's place our hands on our low belly. And as we settle into feeling our breath, allow a sense of the breath to settle and drop into the hips. Still, the rest of our body will be moving with the breath, chest, collarbones, maybe the back, the sides, but a little bit of extra feeling into nourishing our hips and pelvis with our breathing. And just let yourself settle into your experience as it is now. And remembering the feeling of connecting to the ground through our feet and sit bones, and at the same time connecting to the sky through the elongation of our spine and a little lift through the crown of the head. And now we're going to move into moving the pelvis a little bit around the thigh bone. So I'm going to turn sideways. You don't have to turn. But you might want to place one hand in front and one hand in the back. You could also have two hands in the back or both in the front. We want a comfortable way of sensing the feedback of our hands and our pelvis. So nice and tall on the inhale. On the exhale, let the small of the waist move backwards and see if you can feel the pubic bone rising up. And on the inhalation, we're going to rock on the sit bones to open the front belly and a little arch in the back. Exhale, we rock back. And inhale, we gently rock forwards. Now this movement could be very tiny. Whatever feels interesting to you. Do you want to focus on the rocking on the sit bones? Do you want to focus on the movement at the top of the pelvis? Maybe you want to try a little bit of one, a little bit of the other. And maybe the rest of your spine is doing something to complement this. So we want to focus on initiating movement from maybe a particular zone and allowing the rest of the spine and the torso to follow along. So if you played along yesterday, we were moving with the focus on the shoulders and the upper body, and you may notice that there's some movement in that region too. The difference is where we're putting the focus. Today the spotlight is on the hips. Okay, let's let that be and just see how that feels. And now let's move in a different direction. So we have the sit bones pretty even. Let's tip to one sit bone. So one lifts and the other gets heavy. Come back to center and then tip to the other sit bone. And it's up to you what you want to do with your upper body. Maybe you want to reach so the whole body is rocking. Maybe you want to push with one foot. So you push with the foot that then lifts the hip. Or maybe you have another way of doing this. So the main thing is we're rocking onto one sit bone, taking the weight off the other. And maybe we're swaying with that. And if you're swaying, how do your head and neck want to move with this? How does the rib cage want to move? And let this come to a natural finish. And we're going to deliberately do something a little bit with the side. So we were going out to the side. Let your arms hang down. Inhale tall. On the exhale, slide one set of fingers towards the floor. So the armpit and shoulder and maybe the ear are coming closer to that hip. And then come back up on the inhale and maybe even elongate a little bit extra. Exhale. It's like a delightfully inefficient way to reach for something that might be on the floor, but it's extremely beneficial for a movement idea. So let's do that one more time on this side and feel the shortening of that side. And come back up. Let that be. And we're going to do the same amount on the other side. Inhale tall. Exhale, the other fingers are reaching towards the floor. That armpit, shoulder, and maybe the ear are gently bending as well. And inhale, everything lengthens. And how can you do this so you feel like you're rocking? And maybe one more. I'm doing threes, but if you want to do twos or fives, it's really what brings you curiosity and pleasure in the movement. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. I promise we'll come back to that, but I do want to do a little bit of standing work, but first just feel how things are. And we'll take our pelvis in a circle because we've done sides, we've done leaning towards the front and the back. So let's now take a circle with this. So imagine that you're going to make a circle with your perineum or maybe your sit bones. So let's rock back on the exhale and then roll to one hip. On the inhalation, the belly is reaching forward with that arch of the back, and we roll to the other hip. So exhaling, rocking back into one side, inhaling around the front and the other side. And maybe you want to breathe a different way, but the main idea is keep breathing and explore what it feels like to circle through those locations. And don't forget, it's nice to go the other way and take your time. Maybe your movements are even smaller. Maybe that's where you feel more. And allowing the upper body, the head and the neck to move in any way that they feel is complementary. And when you feel complete having gone in both directions, let this come to a gentle finish and just sit, maybe wiggle around a little bit, see how that feels. And just for fun, let's do a couple of shoulder circles in any direction that you like, letting the whole body be involved. Now for the next part, we're going to do some hip lifts and lowering, but we're going to do that standing. You can, of course, do it sitting on the chair. So a little sneak preview, that lowering of the armpit, we're going to lift the hip and lower the same armpit. Let's actually do that sitting. Inhale, come up, and now do the other side. Exhale, the other armpit lowers and the hip comes towards it. So there's nothing under that hip. And let's do that again. Exhale, And maybe the ear wants to come with it. Inhale. It's a side bend to one side, lifting the hip and lowering the armpit. So if you're going to stay in the chair, you'll be able to play with this. Just wiggle that out. And let's come and stand up. We'll do a little bit of shaking. So find your vertical alignment and just let things move, because shaking I find is really luscious for loosening up any tight holding in the hips. There are all kinds of reasons we could feel tight in the hips. And most of us think that we have to do some kind of extreme stretching to open our hips. This is a different route to opening. This is a releasing and a sensing. Maybe you want to make some noise. Maybe you want to just shake off the shackles. That feels pretty good, eh? Okay. Now, because we're playing with the hips, let's do some tapping. Yesterday, we also included tapping for the shoulders. So let's tap all around the belly. And imagine you're tapping in love and awareness. Come into the waistline. You can use the backs of the hands. You can do alternating. You can do even. The alternating is really nice because it gives an automatic shimmy. So we're kind of cupping one hip and the hip is coming into the cup. Boom, 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 boom. And we want the knees and the ankles and the feet to stay loose. Loose, 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 loose. And let's make our way down the outsides of the thighs, as far down as you can comfortably reach. You can pretend in your imagination, which is real energy anyways, or you can make it all the way down, over the tops of the feet, coming up the insides of the legs, even a little bit into the perineum. And then let this come to its own gentle completion. Stand tall with your feet connected to the earth, the crown of your head connected to the sky. And notice how your breath feels now. Notice how you feel. Notice how your lower body feels. Or anything else that is attracting your attention, because this is your beautiful first-person experience. And now let's massage lovingly, circling, as though you're spreading love cream and flexibility cream, oiling your joints and your hips. And maybe you want to go the other direction a few times. Or maybe you want to get fancy and let one hand make its circle and then let the other hand make its circle. So it's the same as beginning, but if you syncopate and just let nature take its course, you may find that everything moves. And enjoy whatever your experience is right now. Enjoy it. Okay, so coming back to those hip lifts. Now in belly dance, we call them lifts and drops, but I want to take away that thought of a drop is literally you drop something. So these are going to be slow pumps, meaning we lift up with awareness and we lower with awareness. Now this requires some bending of the knees. So let's just loosen up the feet by staying more or less in place and lifting one heel and then reaching the heel down. And now start to slow it down. You can lift the heel up quickly, but lower the heel slowly and feel the foot sinking through the ground. And let's do that one more time on this side. The heel lowers slowly and it keeps on going. Feel what that gives you. If there's anything you notice, doesn't matter, but just take a moment. And then do it quickly a couple of times on the other side just to get the movement. And then we'll inhale up and slowly lower and let that foot keep going through the ground. This is actually a psoas release. It's probably a psoas release that you may not have ever considered, but I learned it from an equine somatics teacher because, of course, hips are very important if you're an equestrian, because you communicate to the horse's spine through your spine and your pelvis. So everybody wants nice, juicy hip flexors. All right, so here it comes. We're no longer going to bend the knee. That's the trick. We're going to lift the heel without bending the knee, and look, the hip pumps up. And just lower and let that heel sink to the ground. Inhale, lift the heel, let the hip come with it, and let the armpit move towards it. And then lower, so there's a little lengthening here. One more time, lift up. Now this time, lower and bend the knee and send the hip down. So it's important that you lean in that direction. See how that hip comes down? Inhale, press the foot against the floor, the knee straightens, the hip comes up. And on the exhale, the foot lowers and you keep leaning and bend the knee. Notice how the whole body sways. I know that there are belly dance techniques where we work a lot on isolations, where we hold one part of the body still and show the mastery of another part. I personally like this version better for my body right now, so allow yourself to feel and explore. So that's one hip, and just walk around a little bit with that suspension top of your head. See how that hip feels, maybe play a little bit, shimmy a little bit, make sound, shake it out anytime you like, and notice if there's a difference in quality between how you sense the hip that we've played with and also how the other hip feels. Okay, time for hip number 2. So gentle suspension upwards, and we're going to keep the knee straightish, lift the heel and let the hip come up. And then lower the heel and let the leg just reach down through the foot. Inhale, lift the heel, let it take the hip, and let the armpit and maybe the ear come towards. And then everything resolves into a lengthening. And one more time, lifting up and slow, and let that heel just drop. Now we're going to bend the knee. So let's practice the knee first. So the hip sways out to the side, we bend that knee, and that hip is reaching. You can even stroke it down. And inhale, let's lift the heel and the hip. Exhale, the heel lowers, the knee bends, that hip keeps traveling down. Inhale up, and we're focusing on initiating this movement through our hip and our leg, and we're allowing the upper body to play in whatever way feels like a lovely counterbalance, a lovely experience. Okay, so just see how that feels. We're going to do side to side. So let's come back to the first side if you want to shake and shimmy it out. And trust me, the less you think about this and just let it be and be playful, laugh if you make a mistake, be like a child exploring. Just keep doing it and be as relaxed as possible, because I couldn't do any of this the first time I tried it. It was movement foreign to anything that I had ever done, because it's a different movement vocabulary, but it's still a vocabulary that lives inside the natural anatomy and range of motion of our body. So you may want your hands on your hips and you're nice and relaxed and elongated. Inhale, lift the one heel. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift the other heel and reach out and down. Okay, I changed it, so let me be a bit more clear. It's going to actually work better to flow into a figure 8. So the figure 8 is going to be in this direction, not on the floor. So let's lift the heel and the hip, reach out, put the heel down, lower that hip, and bring that back to center. Let's circle in this way. So you're making one loop. I'm indicating that with my other hand. So all the movements that we've practiced. Up in the center, out to the side, down, and back to the center. And you could imagine this is, if you have ovaries, or you can imagine having an ovary, you can imagine the ovary making the circle, or maybe you want to feel the pelvic half, or maybe it's your sit bone. It's whatever part of you you want to be moving. So let's let that go, feel that. We'll do the other side. So we're going to start by lifting the hip, leaning it out, putting the heel down, bending the knee. Inhale up the center, out to the side, and we're following the steps. Don't suddenly do something different. Everything we've built carefully. Sometimes we think, oh, and we kind of go haywire, we check out, but it's all systematic. It's all very much step by step. So inhale, lift, press out. Exhale, bend the knee, send the hip down, scoop it under, come up. And you'll probably find, or you may find, one hip is really good at this and the other hip is like, what? This is my what hip. But I still love it. And I still follow the steps, and it always makes a difference. Okay, now, wiggle that out. We're going to do 1 and 1. So you see how that becomes a figure 8. All right. Inhale, lift, out, down, under, center, and the other one comes up. Out, down, center, up. Out, down, center, up. Out, down. So on the center, the other hip is already coming up. And now that you've got the steps, you can keep slowing it down and simply doing it systematically. I recommend that if you lose the flow, just stop, breathe, and begin again from the simple building blocks. It's usually easier and more successful to do that than it is to try to fix it from the middle. That's the beauty of it. It's very simple. Just start again. And now, if you're having fun with it, just let your arms do whatever they want to do. Maybe they want to stay on your hips. Maybe they want to lift up the base of your skull, or maybe you want to take the hair off your neck to just get a breeze. Or maybe you want to play with your shoulders or just see what happens. Stay with the rhythm of your hips. Maybe you want to walk with it. And let's bring this to a close with a couple of simple hip circles where our perineum is drawing a hoop on the ground. And as the hips come forward, offer. And as the hips go back, gather. And as you inhale, open up to the energies. Exhale, collect. Open up, let's do a few the other way. Circling the other way, gathering, connecting to the earth. Inhale, opening, gathering, opening. Exhale, bend the knees. Inhale, rise up, reaching up, touch the sky. And exhale, bring the energy down to rest in front of the heart. Notice how you feel. And bring your hands down to your precious pelvis and hips. Send some love, some breath, some appreciation. And if you feel like wiggling, to check out your hips, or maybe you want to try one of your yoga poses or something that you normally do, just see how your hips feel after this delightfully wacky little workout. Or maybe you want to do the twist or the Charleston. All right. Whatever you've received from this little, whatever positive that you've received from this little playtime, please know it's yours. Take it with you. Let it inform the rest of your day or your evening. And this week's sessions are meant individually, and also they can be combined. So yesterday's was about the shoulders and upper body. Today is about the hip. There's no session tomorrow because I have to attend a class as a student. And Friday we're back with the torso and the trunk. So we'll be playing with some undulations of the spine, which are also going to involve the shoulders and hips because, hey, everything's interconnected, right? Many blessings. Thank you so much for your attention, your presence, and your beautiful magnificence within. We'll see you next time.